My name is Hannah Collins. I'm 28 years old, and the day my body finally gave up on me should have been the happiest day of my life. It happened in a stadium full of people, under a sky so blue it felt fake, with a sea of black gowns and fluttering tassels all around me. My name had just been called. I was halfway across the stage, smiling out at strangers, and searching for two faces that weren't there. My parents. I told myself they were stuck in traffic, that they were late, that they would rush in any second, out of breath, apologizing, waving like they always promised they would. I told myself a lot of things right before the world tilted. Halfway to the dean, my vision blurred at the edges. The applause stretched into a distant echo. My heart started pounding too fast. Then, not fast enough. I heard my own name again, Hannah Collins. Right as my knees gave out, I didn't feel myself hit the stage. I just remember the sound. Gasps, shouts, someone dropping a program. And then, nothing. Before I tell you what happened after I woke up alone, I want to know, where are you watching from? And when you hear the rest of this story, ask yourself honestly, if the people who abandoned you on your biggest day came back later, begging for help, would you forgive them? Or finally, say no. If stories like this pull you in, make sure you subscribe, because what my parents did next still messes with my head. When I opened my eyes, the sky was gone. Fluorescent lights glared above me, humming like insects. My throat was dry, my chest ached, and there was a tight band squeezing my arm. A blood pressure cuff. Hospital. A nurse leaned over me. Hey there, Hannah. You're okay, sweetheart. You fainted at your graduation. Graduation. It came back in fragments. The stage. The heat. The empty seats where my parents were supposed to be. I croaked. How long? You've been here a couple of hours, she said gently. You were pretty dehydrated. Stress, exhaustion, your body finally said enough. I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my head. My parents. Oh, she said, and that one syllable told me everything. No one was here when they brought you in. We called the emergency contact on file, but it went to voicemail. I stared at her. You called both numbers. She checked the chart. We tried your mom's cell and your dad's. No answer from either. Something cold slid down my spine. No answer. Not even a callback. I wasn't a child. I wasn't a teenager sneaking out. I was a 28-year-old woman who'd just completed a brutal double degree while working 2 part-time jobs. I had dragged myself through burnout, migraines, and panic attacks to get to that stage, and the 2 people who were supposed to be proud of me weren't even there to notice I'd collapsed. The nurse must have seen something in my face, because her tone softened. Do you want us to try again? I thought about it. About my mother's habit of saying, "We're so proud of you, honey," while never actually showing up. About my father's endless lectures on toughening up, even when I could barely stand from exhaustion. About every broken promise leading up to this moment. I swallowed. No, I whispered. Don't call again. She nodded like she understood. Is there anyone else we can call? There was my best friend, Lena, who had already texted me twice. My advisor. My boss at the cafe. People who had no obligation to care, but did. Lena, I said. Her number should be in my phone. While the nurse stepped out, I stared at the 4 in my arm, the empty visitor chair in the corner, the folded gown on the tray beside me. All I could see was that stadium, that row of seats I had saved, that stupid mental image I'd clung to of my parents standing and cheering louder than anyone else. They hadn't even made it to the fantasy. Lena burst in 20 minutes later, eyes wide, hair half falling from a bun, still wearing her wrinkled dress from the ceremony. Hannah, oh my God, are you okay? She hugged me carefully, like I might break. I laughed, but it sounded wrong. Apparently my body just rage quit. She pulled back, scanning my face. I tried calling your mom. She didn't pick up. I thought maybe she was already here. She's not, I said. Neither is he. The silence that followed was heavier than any forebag. Lena sat down and took my hand. You know they should have been there, right? Like, bare minimum. I shrugged, but my eyes burned. Bare minimum hasn't been their thing for a long time. That wasn't entirely true. There were times they'd done just enough to keep me hoping. Just enough calls. Just enough "we love you" messages. Just enough guilt about how busy they were. Corporate jobs, social events. Vacations with friends. Always something more important than their daughter. I looked at the white hospital ceiling and felt something shift inside me. Not a dramatic snap. More like a quiet, final click. I used to believe there would be one big moment that changed everything between me and my parents. A crisis that would wake them up. A success they couldn't ignore. I didn't realize this was it. Not the collapse. Their absence. I didn't know then that months later, the same parents who couldn't bother to show up when I was unconscious would come knocking desperate, smiling, begging for help, and that, for the first time in my life, I would finally say no. My parents stood there on the steps of my apartment building, tired, disheveled, their polished edges cracked wide open. For a moment, I felt like I was looking at strangers wearing the faces of the people who raised me. People I had spent years trying to impress, convince, win over, even survive. My mother clutched her tissue like it might save her from sinking. Hannah, she whispered, we're your family. I know, I said quietly, but family isn't a shield you get to pick up only when life gets hard. My father stepped forward, desperation pulling at his features. Sweetheart, please, a cosign is all we're asking. Just your signature. We'll do the rest. I almost laughed. My signature, if only they knew how many nights I stared at my bank account, calculating rent to the penny, how many times I patched myself together mentally and physically because they weren't there. I shook my head. Dad, co-signing is not just a signature. It's tying my entire financial future to yours. If you fall, I fall with you. He opened his mouth, closed it again, then tried once more. We won't fall. This is temporary. It's been temporary for years, I said gently. My mother flinched. She wasn't used to honesty from me. Only compliance. I could see them searching my face for the girl I used to be, the girl who apologized first, who swallowed her needs, who made herself small so they didn't feel guilt. But that girl collapsed on a graduation stage without her parents watching. That girl woke up alone. That girl waited for a call that never came. And she didn't exist anymore. I'm sorry, I whispered, but I can't help you. My mother stepped closer, her voice trembling between anger and resignation. Are you punishing us? No, I said. I'm protecting myself. Her eyes burned, but she didn't speak. My father swallowed hard. We're losing the house. Hannah. I met his gaze. You lost me first. It was the first time I had ever said something that undeniably cut. The truth often does. He sank onto the step behind him, his hands covering his face. My mother stood frozen, gripping the railing like the ground wasn't stable. For a moment, I felt the urge to comfort them, to kneel, to hug, to fix. But I'd spent years pouring myself into their empty spaces, and nothing ever changed. So I let the silence sit, let reality settle, let them feel, perhaps for the first time, the weight of their own absence. My mother finally spoke. Fine, she said quietly, voice thin. If you won't help, then I suppose we'll figure something out. Somehow. There was no anger in it. Who's defeat? The sound of two people realizing the world they built had cracks long before they noticed them. I stepped around them, walking toward the entrance. Hannah, my father said softly, without looking up. Are we terrible parents? My breath caught. I closed my eyes, the ache in my chest twisting deeper. You were the best parents you knew how to be, I said. But it wasn't enough. Not for me. Not for me. He nodded slowly, as if the truth weighed too much to fight. I walked to the door, paused, turned back one last time. Mom's makeup was streaked. Dad's shoulders slumped. They looked older than I'd ever seen them. Human, flawed, breakable. I didn't hate them. I didn't even resent them anymore. I just didn't belong to their chaos anymore. I hope things work out, I said softly. I really do. But this isn't something I can fix. My mother's lips parted, but no words came. I opened the door. Hannah, my father whispered, not lifting his head. Will you talk to us again? His voice cracked at the end. I answered honestly, when you're ready to show up for me? Not when you need something from me. He nodded. My mother looked away, and I stepped inside the building. The door clicked shut behind me, soft, final, echoing in the hallway like a new beginning. I climbed the stairs to my apartment, feeling lighter and heavier all at once. Grief and relief often live in the same space. Inside, my apartment was warm and quiet. Mine. The place I built without them. I sat on the couch, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and let myself cry not out of regret, but release. Because saying no wasn't selfish. It was survival. It was healing. It was the moment I finally chose myself. Later that night, Lena came over with takeout. We didn't talk about my parents right away. We just ate, watched TV, and laughed. Normal, easy, safe. And, for the first time in a very long time, I felt like I belonged somewhere, with someone who actually showed up, on time, every time. And as I drifted off to sleep, I realized something. I didn't collapse at graduation because I was weak. I collapsed because I'd carried too much for too long, and walking away from the people who let me fall was the strongest thing I ever did. My parents stayed outside my apartment door longer than I expected. 10 minutes, 15. Long enough for guilt to start creeping up my spine, tapping at old wounds, but I didn't open the door. I couldn't. Eventually, I heard my mother sigh, the dramatic kind she used whenever she didn't get her way. My father murmured something I couldn't make out, then their footsteps faded down the hall. Silence settled over the apartment like a blanket. Heavy, smothering. Lena let out a breath she'd clearly been holding. I'm proud of you, she whispered. I didn't feel proud. I felt tired. Bone deep, tired. I sank onto the couch, hugging a pillow to my chest. It shouldn't feel like I just committed a crime. You did the opposite, she said. You protected yourself. But years of learned obedience don't vanish in a single moment. My parents taught me to be grateful for crumbs, any crumbs. Their attention, their approval, their rare moments of softness. Standing up for myself felt like treason. We talked for a bit longer, but Lena eventually had to leave for her night shift. When she was gone, the apartment felt too quiet. Too big. Too full of memories I wasn't ready to sift through. I took a long shower, letting the steam blur the world, then crawled into bed. Just before sleep pulled me under, my phone buzzed. Mom, call us in the morning. We need to talk. No, love you. No, are you okay? Just need. Like always, the next morning, I didn't call. I didn't text. I went to work, exhausted but upright, determined to push through the day. My manager, Claire, took one look at me and said, You're working the register? You look like you'll pass out if you lift a tray. Fair. Be lunchtime. I had settled into a rhythm. Greet Custer, ring up, order, smile politely, pretend your life isn't unraveling. The usual. Then, as I handed a receipt to a customer, I saw two shadows stretch across the counter. Familiar voices followed. Hannah. I turned slowly. My parents stood side by side, looking out of place under the fluorescent lights of the cafe. My mother was dressed like she was attending a charity luncheon. My father looked stiff, suit jacket to formal for a weekday. They weren't supposed to be here. They had never shown up to my work before. Not once. What are you doing here? I asked, trying to sound calm. My mother forced a smile. We were worried when you didn't call last night. I kept my face blank. I wasn't ready to talk. My father cleared his throat. We need to sit down. We're busy, Claire said sharply, stepping protectively behind me. If you have something to say, keep it short. My mother pursed her lips, clearly offended by being challenged by someone she saw as below her, but she held it together. Desperation looks a lot like politeness when someone needs something from you. Fine, she said. Hannah, sweetheart, we need your help. There it was. The truth. Not concern, not remorse. Need for what? I asked. My father hesitated. How about we talk somewhere else? I'm at work. We'll wait, my mother insisted. This is important. I almost laughed. The one time they offered to wait for me was the one time I didn't want TM too, but the shift eventually ended, and I stepped outside with them into the chilly air. We walked to a nearby bench. They sat, I stood. My mother folded her hands. Your father and I are going through something. My stomach tightened. What kind of something? She glanced at my father, giving him the signal to speak. He removed his glasses and rubbed his face. Hannah, I lost my job. I blinked. What? He nodded slowly. A month ago. And your mother's business isn't doing well. The Parkers, the people we met with during your graduation, they canceled their partnership. My pulse quickened. Okay, but what does that have to do with me? My mother inhaled shakily. We're behind on the mortgage. Ah, there it was. My father added, we could lose the house if we don't get help. Banking help. Loan help. Loan help. Loan help. My loans. My name. My credit. My future. My mother leaned forward, eyes pleading. Sweetheart. You're educated. You have a stable job. If you co-sign, no, the word escaped before I could think, sharp and loud. De, ifros. Hannah, my father said, voice strained. You don't understand. No, I repeated. I'm not tying my financial life to yours. My mother's face twisted. We are your parents? And I was your daughter at graduation, I said quietly. Where were you then? Se flinchet. Se flinchet. My father tried again. If you don't help us, we could lose everything. Primera looked at them. These two people who had never shown up for me, never checked on me unless it benefited them, never supported me unless it made them look good, and something inside me finally hardened. I already lost everything once, I said. On that stage, and you weren't there? My mother whispered, Hannah, please. I stepped back. For once in my life, I said, I'm choosing me. Then I turned and walked away. My father's voice echoed behind me. Desperate, cracking. Hannah, don't do this. But I kept walking. Because this time, I wasn't the one collapsing. Where? I didn't turn back, not even when my father called my name like it physically hurt him, not even when my mother's voice cracked into a sound I'd never heard before. I kept walking until their faces disappeared behind the crowd outside the cafe. For the first time in my life, their desperation wasn't my responsibility, but that didn't mean the guilt didn't try to claw its way back in. The walk home felt longer than usual. My chest was tight, my mind spiraling between anger and sadness, and something that felt like mourning. Not for the house they might lose, for the version of them I had finally admitted would never exist. I unlocked my apartment and collapsed onto the couch, burying my face in my hands. My phone buzzed with messages, but I ignored it. I just needed a moment, one quiet moment where I wasn't someone's solution or disappointment. Hours passed. The sun dipped low. The city lights flickered on. Then my phone rang. My father. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. My mother. Again. I ignored it. Then a text came through, short and sharp. Mom, we're coming over. We need to talk. My stomach dropped. No. Not again. Not this time. I turned off my phone, grabbed my keys, and walked out the door. Anywhere was better than being cornered in my own home. I ended up at Lena's apartment, knocking softly. She opened the door in pajamas, hair in a messy bun, holding a slice of pizza. "You look like a haunted Victorian child," she said. "Come in." I told her everything: the job loss, the mortgage, the cosign request, the begging. Her eyebrows shot so high they nearly touched her hairline. "They skipped your graduation for a meeting with rich friends," she said. "And now they want your signature?" I nodded. Lena shook her head slowly. "The audacity is Olympic level." She heated up more pizza, made me tea, and sat with me through the silence. When my phone buzzed again, she picked it up, saw the caller ID, and tossed it onto the couch like it was contaminated. "Block them for tonight," she said. "You need distance." I didn't block them, but I didn't answer either. Not when the texts turned emotional, not when they turned passive, not when they turned into long paragraphs about how family sticks together, not when they turned into guilt-laced accusations about how I've changed. I stayed at Lena's until almost midnight. She finally convinced me to sleep on her couch, knowing exactly what I feared most: going home to find them waiting outside. I fell asleep eventually, wrapped in a blanket that smelled faintly like lavender detergent. But sleep wasn't kind. In my dreams, I was back on the graduation stage, collapsing, choking for breath, searching the crowd for faces that weren't there. Only this time when I fell, no one rushed toward me. No nurses, no classmates, just empty chairs. I jolted awake with tears on my cheeks. Lena's living room was quiet, lit only by the faint glow of a street lamp through the window. I checked my phone: 3 missed calls, 2 new voicemails, 1 long message from my father. "We're at the point of losing everything. We need you. Please call us." The knot in my chest returned, but this time something else rose to meet it resolve. I couldn't fix them. I couldn't save them. I couldn't mend decades of neglect with one signature. When the sun came up, I quietly left Lena's place before she woke, leaving a note thanking her for being my emergency human safety net. On the walk back to my building, I told myself I'd go straight upstairs, lock the door, and avoid another confrontation. But fate had different plans. The moment I turned the corner, I froze. 2 figures were sitting on the steps of my apartment building. My parents. My mother's makeup was smudged. Her eyes were red. She twisted a tissue in her hands, like it was the only thing keeping her together. My father looked like he hadn't slept. Hair disheveled, shoulders heavy, suit wrinkled in a way that suggested he had worn it overnight. They looked defeated. Small, like everything that held them up had suddenly vanished. My father stood immediately when he saw me. "Hannah." My mother rose slower, her expression trembling. "Please, don't walk away." I should have felt pity. I should have felt something warm, but the only thing I felt was a tiredness deeper than bone. "Hannah," my father said, voice cracking, "this is serious. We're drowning. We need you." "You." Those 3 words, "we need you," once meant everything to me. Now they felt like shackles. My mother stepped closer. "Sweetheart, we're your parents." "I know," I said quietly, "but you're only here because you have nothing left." Her face crumpled. "That's not true." "It is," I said. "You weren't at the hospital. You weren't at graduation. You weren't at any moment that mattered. Until now." Silence. My father's lip trembled. "We messed up. We know we did, but we're asking for your help." I swallowed, heart pounding. "I can't," I said. "I'm not saving you from consequences you created." My mother's voice turned sharp. "So you're just going to let us lose everything?" "No," I said. "You lost everything the moment you stopped showing up." And for the first time in my life, they couldn't argue. Because deep down, they knew it was true. The morning after the hospital released me, I woke up to sunlight slicing across my bedroom and a dull ache behind my eyes. My graduation gown was draped over a chair, wrinkled, the tassel drooping like it had given up. My cap lay on the floor, half stepped on from last night. I hadn't bothered to pick it up. Lena had driven me home, stayed until I fell asleep, and left notes all over my apartment like she was afraid I'd collapse again without supervision. "Drink water. Text me when you wake up. Proud of you, idiot." But the first thing I reached for wasn't water or my phone. It was the photo frame on my nightstand. A picture from high school graduation, me smiling, my parents on either side, their arms around me. My mother's eyes were glassy from crying. My father's smile was small, but proud. I stared at that photo for a long time, searching for clues that maybe they had been pretending even then, or maybe I had just been enough for them once, before adulthood made me too inconvenient. My phone buzzed. A message from Lena. "You alive?" Blinked twice. I smiled weakly, texting back. Barely. Before I could type more, another notification popped up. A number I recognized instantly. My mother. I froze. A voicemail? No missed call, just the recording. I pressed play. Her voice came through, honey sweet and thin. "Hannah, sweetie. We saw what happened online. Someone posted a clip of you collapsing. Why didn't you tell us you were struggling? You scared us." Struggling? Scared them. They hadn't even come. They hadn't even answered the hospital, she continued. "Your father and I were going to try to make the ceremony, but there was traffic, and then we had a meeting with the Parker's important people. Sweetheart tent. We didn't want to be rude. You know how these things go." A meeting. Instead of their only daughter's graduation, she sighed dramatically. "Call us when you get this. We'll stop by after dinner. Love you. Love you." 2 words they used like tape, only when they needed to cover something up. I sat there, staring at the phone like it might bite me. For the first time, the anger wasn't sharp. It was heavy. Exhausting. My parents didn't show up. They didn't answer the hospital. They didn't even call until a viral video forced them to, and now they wanted to stop by as if this was a minor inconvenience I'd created for them. I set the phone down and pressed my palms against my eyes until stars burst behind my eyelids. This was the moment younger me always hoped wouldn't come, the moment I finally let go of the fantasy version of my parents. The version where they cared, showed up, chose me. Instead, reality kept proving something I never wanted to accept. With them, I was always second place. Around noon, Lena showed up again with 2 smoothies and a bag of breakfast sandwiches. She didn't ask permission. She used her spare key and kicked the door with her foot until I opened it. "You look like someone microwaved you," she said, handing me a smoothie. "That's generous." We sat on the couch, and I played her the voicemail. She listened silently, jaw tightening with each excuse. When it ended, she stared at me with a fury I knew was on my behalf. "They didn't show up," she said slowly. "But now they want to come over." I nodded. "And you're going to let them?" I didn't answer. "Hannah," she said, grabbing my shoulders. "No, absolutely not. You fainted in front of hundreds of people. You could have cracked your skull open. They didn't even care until the internet told them to." Her voice shook. "You deserve more than this." I did. I finally realized I did. Still, a knot twisted in my stomach. "They're my parents," she softened. "I know, but parents aren't magic. They don't become good people just because you want them to be." Her words hit the sorest part of me. For years, I tried to earn their love, perfect grades, clean apartment, successful internships, stable job. If I achieved enough, maybe they'd finally see me, choose me. But lying unconscious on a hospital bed, with an empty visitor chair next to me, told me everything I needed to know. Love wasn't something I needed to earn, and their absence wasn't my failure. It was theirs. Around 7 p.m., as promised, there was a knock on my door. I didn't move. Knock, knock, knock. "Hannah, it's Mom and Dad. Honey, can you open up?" I stayed silent. "Hannah?" My father's deeper voice joined. "We're worried about you." "Worried now?" After missing everything. Lena squeezed my hand. "You don't owe them anything." I knew she was right. I walked to the door, placed my hand on the knob, listened to their muffled voices on the other side. Then I stepped back, letting them knock, letting them wait, letting them feel what I had felt so many times before. And for the first time in my life, I didn't open the door. I didn't let them in. I chose me. But I didn't know yet that this small act, this quiet no, would set off a chain reaction that would drag their hidden desperation into the light. A desperation that would soon come crashing back into my life and test the limits of how far I was willing to go.